Hello, everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. That's the beauty of online instruction. This covers Chapter 19, American Empire. And no discussion of American imperialism in the late 19th century be complete without Alfred Thayer Mahan. Yes, ATM. Naval strategist, historian, influence of sea power upon history is a book he wrote, and everybody in the U.S. and even Europe and Japan took this to be kind of the gospel and a blueprint for late 19th century imperialism. He emphasizes the importance of sea power, and because of this book, the U.S. Navy grows by leaps and bounds. It moves from wooden sailing ships to metal ships with actual artillery shells and no cannonballs. So Alfred Thayer Mahan is the guy who gets American imperialism rolling. And aside from the growth of the Navy, he also emphasizes the control of choke points. Yeah, little places everybody has to sail through to get in. Kind of like, a pizza place. Everybody's got to come through the door, right? So you control the door, you control everybody who comes in. Same sort of concept. He based it on what the British did with their control of choke points. Now, something in Europe happens that gets American imperialism rolling. And here's what this thing is. 1871, Germany becomes united, defeated France in the Franco-Prussian War, and Germany is a superpower. It's also a land power, not much of a navy. And Germany wants to get in on the scramble for Africa and later China. They need a navy to do this. So they start building a navy. And if they build a navy, who's it going to scare first? That's right, Great Britain. They don't like this when someone else builds a navy. Now, the British, their naval power rests in good ships and a large navy, but their industrial capacity is behind Germany, and U.S. industrial capacity is greater than Britain and Germany combined. But the British, aside from their great navy, also control the choke points. See, right here between this and Norway, here's Calais, and of course, the British run the Mediterranean, not because they run the whole thing, but because they got Gibraltar. Do whatever you want in the Med. Can't do anything if you can't get out. Up here's Constantinople, Istanbul. There's a choke point. They don't control that, but you always look at it. Here's the Suez Canal. British control that. Malta, right here. Instead of Sicily, Malta. You have to come through here. So control the choke points. And we could do the same thing in the Caribbean. Now, with this German threat growing over here, Britain can't really up its industrial output anymore because they're basically maxed out. They're doing everything they can do. If I can't build more ships and my navy's spread out all over the world, next best thing I do is start bringing some of those ships home. But doesn't it leave your colonies vulnerable? Well, Great Britain makes a deal with the United States in the Caribbean. Caribbean's your front door. We own Jamaica and Belize. That's all we're interested in. We're not interested in anything else. So if you don't mess with us, we won't mess with you. And the United States thinks it's a great idea. And from that point on, the US and Britain have been friends. We were frenemies before, now we're friends. So leave the Caribbean, the Americans won't bother us. We can concentrate on Germany and bring more stuff back. So France over here is going to handle land stuff. Britain's got the Navy, they got the choke points. Germany's building up. Yeah, here comes World War I, but we're not there yet. Now, anyone who's taken Mr. H's US 1 class remembers this one. So write this down. 3 conditions for a successful revolution. What am I talking about? I'm talking about what's happening in Cuba. Got a revolution breaks loose in Cuba in 1895. Spain owns Cuba. Spain is well past its prime. All right. And right now we got a revolution breaking loose. Now, let's take these and apply it to the American Revolution. You need the support of the people. Without this, you don't have a revolution. In 1776, did we have support of the people? Yes, we did. First in New England, then the South came along a little bit later, but they got there. Sanctuary. You need a place where you can hide from the enemy, train, rest, figure out what to do next. We had that. You just retreated inland. Valley Forge, not the best place for a sanctuary, but, at least the British weren't coming after us. And help from an outside power. Who helped us in 1778, actually? Yeah, France, because now France gave us supplies and they're also fighting the British in other places, so they couldn't concentrate on us. Now let's fast forward to 1898, Cuba. Do they have the support of the people? Cuban rebels, do they have the support of the people? Yes, they do. Do they have sanctuary? Yes, they're retreating to the mountains in the middle of Cuba where the Spanish can't get at them that easily. They've got sanctuary. So number 3, help from an outside power. Who might that be? Could America step into that gap, perhaps? I don't know. Let's think about it. Now, in the meantime, while this is going loose down in Cuba, the U.S. has been concentrating in the Pacific. Island to island to island, getting closer to Asia. Why? Because these are stepping stones to the Asian trade. You got a ship, you come here, you go there, take a break, come over here, take a break, get there, take a break, and boom, there you are. Stepping stones across to Asia. Remember we talked about the 3 impulses behind American imperialism? 1, everybody wants to have a huge empire and a strong military. So we're building up our navy, and here's our empire. Second thing, control the markets. Moving our way here towards Asia. And the third thing, of course, we're going to, export American culture. Haven't quite got there yet. Wait till we get to the Philippines. So all these places are great to have in the Pacific. We're doing the same thing. We're making a stepping stone all the way to Asia. As for controlling markets, hey, here's Hawaii. Took over Hawaii. Why'd we take over Hawaii? Big sugar market there. What's a big export coming out of Cuba? Yeah, sugar there as well. What a surprise, right? So these are the markets going to take over and control. Working their way across the Pacific, and then everything breaks loose in Cuba. Let's take a look here at Cuba real quick. Look at this. See these little islands here? Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, the Bahamas. Hey, look, choke points. We could do the same thing in the Caribbean the British do in the Mediterranean. Yeah, keep that in mind. There's Alaska. We bought it from the Russians, 1876. Found gold later. Turned out to be a pretty good investment. The Spanish-American War. America and Spain are headed for a collision over Cuba. I like to call it the Spam War. See? Spanish-American Spam War. You like Spam? That's one of these things I eat like once a year. I don't know why. I don't know. It's usually in the summer I end up eating Spam. I don't know what that's all about. Now, what starts the war between the United States and Spain? Yeah, the Maine, maybe. But even before then, you got the newspapers talking about the Cuban rebels trying to fight for independence against the Spanish. There's stories about horrible Spanish conduct, got the concentration camps and torture. Some of the stuff did happen, some of it got exaggerated. You do know there's a big sugar market down there, so, some people are pushing for a war. Take it over, control the market, right? Well, we decided to send the USS Maine down into Havana just kind of as a statement. Hey, maybe you need us to negotiate a peace between the Cuban rebels and the Spanish. Spain says, we don't need you here. And we never know what the Cubans say because the ship blows up. We blame the Spanish. The Spanish blame the Cubans. They even say maybe we blew our own ship up as an excuse to attack Cuba. One U.S. officer said, you know what, it might have been a boiler explosion. Then they dived on the wreck in 1976 and they said, you know what, we can't really rule out a boiler explosion. It might have actually happened. Not conclusive, but it's a definite possibility. Of course, they don't know that in 1898. Nonetheless, the Maine gets blown up and the U.S. and Spain are going toe-to-toe in Cuba. Now, we're not going to run through every single battle. Just suffice to say that Teddy Roosevelt went up San Juan Hill. We grabbed Guantanamo Bay, keep it as a Navy base. That sound familiar to anybody? And basically, we helped the Cubans achieve independence. We're not going to take any Cuban territory, but Cuba is basically a puppet state, and they got that big sugar industry, and we're controlling this market. Again, large military, got ourselves a little bit of an empire, and a market we can control. And we're going to try to Americanize them. We're also going to grab Puerto Rico. Why Puerto Rico? 1, the Spanish are there. 2, choke point. Look at these choke points. We control the entire Caribbean. Don't have to patrol out here. Just control the choke points. Got our own little Mediterranean thing going on over here, except it's the Caribbean. Plus, it's also a good early warning system in case some outside attacker tries to bust their way into the Caribbean. and try to attack the United States from underneath, right? Who could that enemy be? I don't know. If the British go crazy and come back one day, or maybe that German fleet actually makes it out into the Atlantic. Any number of things can happen out there. So here we are patrolling, and the Caribbean belongs to us. We also got the Philippines. Didn't really plan on taking the Philippines and hanging on to them. Now, we had a U.S. fleet over here in Hong Kong, rented out some spot here for base. Hong Kong, big port, lots of trade coming through. We sail in here and we destroy the Spanish fleet. They still have wooden ships and cannonballs. We have artillery shells and, armored ships. So this thing was over before it even started, right? It's like the New England Patriots taking on, I don't know, UNCP or somebody, right? Brave men, but no chance. And then we don't really know what to do with them. Originally, it was supposed to be a bargaining chip in case something went wrong over in the Caribbean. Turns out everything worked out great in the Caribbean and the Philippines. And Spain doesn't seem to want them back. If we just leave, there's already German and Japanese ships out here circling around like sharks just waiting for us to go. And you know the German and Japanese reputation for how they treat colonies. So we just can't leave them there. And here we are. We've got manifest destiny in the Philippines. You wanted a large military and an empire. Here it is, the Philippines. You wanted a market you can control. It's the Philippines. Sell them stuff, and look at this. Hong Kong's not that far away, man. Just kind of hop in there and start selling stuff. And of course, we're going to as McKinley would say, uplift and Christianize the Philippine people. First of all, that most of them are Catholics, so yeah, they're already Christianized. Some Muslims living down here. No one really asked to be Americanized or to be taught English, but nope, here we are, U.S. occupation. You're going to learn English, man. It's the way it goes. Welcome to the late 19th century. Now, we also grabbed Cuba, of course, you know that. A ton of islands in the Pacific, including Hawaii and Midway. What else we grabbed? And a lot of other stuff. So now what are we going to do with it? First thing I'm going to do is publish an incredibly racist cartoon. Alrighty, here we are. Uncle Sam is going to teach these guys how to be Americans. Here are the American students, nice, well-behaved, reading what they're supposed to read. Here's an African American student. She's an American too. She's doing what they're supposed to do. This guy's showing up a little bit late, but hey, he's there, right? Right, showed up a little bit late. Playing Fortnite all night, I guess. I don't know. And here's a Native American child. He's, you gotta have a little special grade for him, but he's working on it. He's getting there. See, he's doing what he's supposed to do. I'm not too happy about this either, but welcome to the late 19th century. And these guys, we got to push into the front, and you got to get the switch out to beat them into submission. Another beautiful thing about online class. I don't have to beat anybody into submission. Just kidding, just kidding. So, like I said, it's not the most flattering cartoon, but you can tell it gives you insight into what America is thinking about uplifting and Christianizing other people. Now, this cartoon's not that great either, but it's a little bit better, and I'll explain why. I said a little bit better. Here we are, the Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and we're going to steal Panama later. Here they are, oppressed by the Spanish. And this is what they can become. We said the Spanish are going to keep them in slavery, basically. And with a little bit of American help, look what they can become. You see, they're saying, even though it's not the best cartoon ever, look what they can become. A little bit of an American push, and they can be productive members of the world community. So this one's a little bit more optimistic. Not 100% thrilled about it, but like I said, it's the late 19th century. Now, after the Europeans had finished chopping up Africa, they went after China. There's really nowhere else to go. They can't get down to Latin America. U.S. Navy, British Navy are in the way. India already belongs to the British. So, spheres of influence in China. Now, if there's one thing you know about China, China is big. 1.3 billion people today. Back then, 800 million. Might as well be a billion, right? So you can't really conquer China. The Mongols tried and got absorbed. The Manchurians tried, they got absorbed. Check out Mr. H's World History class. So what they can do here is what we have sphere of influence. You know the French own French Indochina, hence the name. Canton, Hong Kong, all this is a French sphere of influence. The British own Hong Kong. Portugal has Macau. Look at this. Japan's getting in on the action. Sphere of influence. Even Germany's got a little one. Of course, the Russians are right here. That doesn't mean the Russians, Germans, Japanese, British, French, anybody like that actually own this part of China. They just make all the money coming out of this, right? So 90% of all the trade and money here goes straight to Britain or Japan or Germany or Russia, right? It's like saying the Russians or the Chinese have taken over California and Silicon Valley and 90% of that money goes to them and we get to keep 10%, right? So that's kind of what a sphere of influence is. It's not an actual colony. They don't actually own it. They just get all the money from it, which is actually much more effective and much cheaper than a direct colony. United States, we're trying to get in on the action. We got the Philippines down here, which is a stepping stone for Hong Kong. And of course, the British are our buddies now. We have a proposal called the Open Door, allowing anybody to trade anywhere in China. And of course, the Europeans and Japanese aren't going to go for that. We got our sphere of influence. If you went in, you got to pay, right? All right, well, that's U.S. imperialism, and it's not over yet. We're going to steal Panama a little bit later on, but that dovetails in with progressivism, and I've had some really long lectures, so I'm giving you a break on this one. So, progressive era comes up after this, and remember, those three conditions for a revolution. Might see them again a little bit later on. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later.